Okay, I want to talk a little bit about the keyword "this" in object-oriented design. So, um, it's going to show up two different ways. So, the first way is whenever you're acting on an object in an instance method or or in a constructor, you need to be able to refer to the name of the object. Um, Now, the problem is you don't know the name of the object because that's going to happen in another code somewhere. Okay, so you don't know the name of the object that you're currently acting on. You don't know the name of this. So you call it this. Okay, so for example, in your constructor, whenever you are referring to the first name, you're like, well, which first name? Is it the first name from our parameter? Is it the first name from an object? Well, when I say this dot first name, it's saying this is the name of the object. Okay, the current object I am acting on. I don't know what its name is, so this is kind of a placeholder for whatever the name of the object is. So I'm saying I want the first name that belongs to this object. Okay, the object that I'm currently acting on. Okay, we're going to get back to the other use for this later. Okay, so the other thing you need to know is how do we access the variables from a from an object? So if I've got this object and it's got a radius, okay, I've got the circle object has a radius, or the student who has a name. How do I access those attributes? Well, all you do is you do the name of the object and then the name of the attribute. So for example, I'm in the wrong class. Here we go. Let's look at this very simple method right here. This method right here, all it does is it takes a circle object that we act on and it adds the radius of another circle. So I want you to notice a few things here. So it's a non-static method. Okay, you'll notice there's no static there. So I'm acting on an object. And um, it takes a circle as a parameter. Yes, you can do that. So I've got the circle that I'm acting on that I don't know its name, and I have another circle that I'm calling other. So if I want the radius of this circle right here, I say other.radius. But what about the object that I'm acting on? Well, I can either call it just radius, or I can call it this dot radius. Okay, again, this is just a placeholder for the name of the object that I'm acting on. So if you don't put anything, it will assume that you want the object that you're currently acting on. Here's a similar method here. The only difference is this is a static method. Okay, since this is a static method, we're going to we're not acting on an object. So we have to put both of these circles as parameters this time. We're still doing the same thing. We're just adding the radii together. So again, how do I access the radius of circle 1? I say circ1.radius, because that's the name of my circle, and that's the name of its attribute. And then same thing for circ2's radius. I do want you to notice the difference in how you call these two methods. So the instance method I call, you're acting on an object, so you start with the name of the object. We start with circ, okay, this guy right here. Dot radius sum circ2, okay? And this could be any circle. We could even do the same circle again, and we could add the same radius twice. We could have circ2 here, okay? But remember, when you have an instance method, you start with the name of the object, and then uh, the method name. Whereas my static method, you start with the name of the class instead of the name of the object. Okay, dot radius sum, and then I put my two circle names in there. All right. I also want to point out, if you're trying to access variables, okay, let's say I do system.out.print circ.radius. Okay, this is a valid way of accessing the radius. The only problem is, in my circle class, when I first declared the radius, I made it private. So if I try to run this right now, let's see what happens. Radius has private access in circle. So if I had made this public, then I forgot to do print len, but it gives me my radius, okay? And I could do the same thing. I could do circ2 dot radius. I could even change the radius. And you'll see now it's been changed to 20, okay? Here's the problem. We don't always want the user to have full access to these variables. Like, what if they decide to do something like this? What? You can't have a circle with a radius of -20? They're like, sure I can. When you design these classes, you really only want the user to be able to access the variables in certain ways. And so you can do your part to kind of say, no, you can't change that attribute in that way. You can only change it in these certain ways that I've set out. Okay, so it gives you a lot of control, and it keeps other people from being able to break objects and use them in ways they're not intended, and it keeps privacy. So we're going to go ahead and keep this private. And we'll talk about later how we're going to be able to get those values and change those values later. All right, one last thing. I wanted to show you that not only can circle be a parameter, or these objects that we created be a parameter, it can also be a return type. Okay, so I can take, so this method right here, what it does is it returns the biggest circle. Okay, it says, okay, I'm acting on this one circle. Okay, it's a instance method, non-static. I've got this circle. I'm going to compare it to this other circle. Okay, that's going to be a parameter. And I'm going to figure out which one is bigger, which is going to be based on the radius. And then I'm going to return the biggest one. Okay? So my return type, instead of double or string or whatever, it's circle. Okay, I'm going to give them a circle. So if radius is greater than or equal to the other radius, I'm going to return the circle that I'm acting on. Well, what's the name of the circle that I'm acting on? Well, I don't know. So I say, return this, okay, the guy that I'm currently acting on. So again, this is just a placeholder for the name of the guy you're currently acting on. If the other one is bigger, then I'm going to return, what's the name of the circle? Other. But again, what am I returning? I'm returning the whole circle. I'm saying, here's a circle. So if I go back here, there's a couple different ways that I can handle this. So one way is when I call circ.getBigCircle, I can go ahead and define a new circle using that circle that I've returned. And now I can use that circle just like any other, and I can get its area or whatever. I do want to show you one more tricky, nasty looking thing. I'm going to take this guy, I'm going to move it out to make it a little clearer here. Um, this is where some of my students start getting really scared. Okay, like really just frightened. Okay, let's say that on the AP test, they're wanting you to find the area of the biggest circle. Well, one way you can do it is like this. Okay, you can make a brand new circle and then find the area. But I want to show you that this is also an option. Okay, so let me explain what's going on here. I want to find the area. So I need circle name dot area. Well, how do I find my circle? How do I get my circle? Well, I've got that method that does it for me. So what's that method? It's circ dot get big circle circ2. What happens is this, depending on which one is bigger, will turn into either circ or circ2. And now that's really simple. It's just that first part was me getting the object. I needed that space to give me the object. Um, but now um, I'm using a method to give me the name of that object. Whew, that was a lot of stuff. So let me stop it there and we'll hit more of this later.